Hello, everyone. This is FPL Under the Radar. This is FPL Kante. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening, wherever you are. Uh, this is our Game Week 1 preview. We have had some preseason content over the last few weeks. This is our final video previewing everything Game Week 1, drafts and dilemmas and etc. Before the deadline on Friday. And of course, remember that it's a Friday deadline. So we'll talk through those. I'm here with my buddies, Appeal Wrangler and ZD. How are you doing, ZD?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Only 2 days remaining. Seems like if we have some more time and some pre-season games, it would be nice. But I
Yeah.
mean, last few days we wanted that. Why this deadline is not coming? But now feels like it's
Hmm. Too
like
close.
too
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
So a little bit nervous, but very excited, obviously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wrangler, how about you? Cannot hear you, Wrangler. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, doing all right. Like less than 48 hours, right?
Hmm.
I think so. Yeah, very much looking forward to it. Very much excited. Um, very much ready to get burnt out. But
Hmm.
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get going. Of course, as I said before, we have reviewed all the data from last season. We have deep dived into players and teams. We have focused on a few teams as well: Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Chelsea. So do catch up on those if you haven't already. But today's video is going to be focusing on fixtures in general, the dilemmas that the community has, and trying to answer through those. We are not going to go deep into data, etc. today. But again, if you have any specific questions, still please shoot it towards us. Uh, we'll try to address those absolutely. So with that being said, let's start with the fixtures. And again, we have spoken about Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, Tottenham, and Chelsea's fixtures in our previous videos. City and Arsenal both have excellent fixtures to start with. Liverpool and Tottenham have a little bit of mixed bag, good and bad fixtures. Uh, Chelsea has probably one of the best set of fixtures out of all the teams in the league, both from an attacking perspective and from a defensive perspective. But those are the five teams that we have spoken about. So maybe we can start with Man United, Wrangler, if you want to talk about how you are looking at for the first game, 8 game weeks. How do you think Man United will fare?
Yeah, I think Man United's fixture. One thing I felt that in first game, 8 games. Basically they didn't have any bad runs, I would say. So like sometimes you might have some like consecutive bad games, right, or difficult games, right? But for Man United, if you see the fixture, they have Spurs and Arsenal. But again, they have Wolves, they're playing Nottingham Forest, Burnley, Palace, right? So it's not a like bad run, and they were looking good. We had actually very, I would say, um, good signing or transfer window, at least whatever we needed. We actually kind of got right players, I would say, because we needed a striker last season. We really struggled,
Mhm.
and we got a striker, but he's injured. But again, I think within a month he should be ready. But I think Mount is a good signing as well. I'm very much looking forward to him, looking forward to it, because I felt like that, initially it was kind of like, okay, does he really fit? But whenever now I see that, I feel like he fits very well, especially like he covers a depth for a lot of positions, like Bruno positions, Ericsson positions, even for the Casemiro position as well, right? Because if
Mhm.
say Casemiro is injured or get red card, then Bruno can play like deeper role, and he can play number 10. He can play right forward as well, and he had very good seasons under Tuchel 2 seasons before. So that's really very exciting moment. And definitely Onana is another signing we had. And definitely David De Gea was very good, but like if we consider Ten Hag's system, then we need a goalkeeper where we can build up from the back, right? So and that's where Onana fits pretty well. So yeah, I mean we had these three signings, and I think it was a very good window for us. At least that's what we could get, given the market or given the situation we had. So I'm really happy and looking forward to it. And in terms of FPL, I think Rashford and Bruno, definitely these two picks. Rashford looked sharp. He didn't get any. Well, I think he got goal later, but
Yeah,
at the
one
very
goal.
beginning, yeah, I think he got two goals versus
Yeah, two.
Lens,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Mhm,
and one assist, I think, as well. But
mhm,
otherwise, he looked really sharp, and until Rasmus Højlund comes, he's gonna be in number 9 position, right? So that's definitely he's gonna be the target man, and Bruno at 8.5, it's a bargain. So these two players, I really, I think they will do good. And I'm actually also tempting for the third position from Man United as well, like either Onana or Shaw. But yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting season for us.
Let me ask you, do you think like that, at least just looking at the first eight fixtures, do you think they're better from an attacking perspective or from a defensive perspective? Because of course Wolves and Nottingham there, and Burnley
I
also.
think definitely attacking perspective, attacking perspective over defensive perspective. But I
Mhm,
think defensive wise as well, I think they improved a lot. They got 17 clean sheet last season, right? They
mhm,
improved
mhm,
defensively a lot. So, and even against the stronger side, I expect. I mean, if they keep clean sheet, I will not be surprised. Like likes of Brighton, I think that's a home game. So yeah, it's a difficult game, but we might keep clean sheet. So yeah, I mean, attacking wise, it's a good fixture, but defensively is not bad either. Especially like in after game week 5, you see like Burnley, Palace,
mhm.
Brentford. I think after that, they also had some good games. So yeah,
Okay.
I think that's it. So
All right, so let's move on to the next teams. I would like to talk about Newcastle and Brighton a little bit as well. ZD, of course, Newcastle, the fixture run is kind of opposite, right? Newcastle's starting fixtures are difficult, but then it gets easier post game week 4. And then Brighton's is opposite. Their first 3 game weeks are great, but then they have a terrible run of fixtures, right? Newcastle, Man United, maybe other than the game week 6 fixture against Bournemouth. So how are you looking at Newcastle and Aston Villa before the start of the season from an APL standpoint?
Newcastle has very tough fixture to start. I mean, that actually, I know their defense is very good, although I mean they can probably keep a clean sheet or two out of like first four because they are well structured team. But I mean, for FPL, I mean we have better options in somewhere else. So probably we can try to jump in to the Newcastle asset in game week 5. Like when Brighton's fixture turns red, like from game week 4, their fixture is very tough. I think
Mhm,
defensive wise, it will be difficult. Probably attacking wise, still they will be capable to score 1 or 2 goal. But defensive wise, it's not a good one. And for Newcastle, attackers status is unknown anyway. Like Wilson, Isaac, and um, last year Almiron did well. This year we don't know yet. Like Harvey Barnes is in there as well. So probably we need to see some games for their attackers. For defenders, I don't think anybody. If somebody has anyone, like it will be very difficult to start actually. Like 6.5 million
mhm,
Trippier, or like say Botman can be in the bench and he can start from game week 5. But
mhm,
I don't think it it will be, it will make sense to start with them. Probably it's better to start with them game week 5, other than probably Botman, if he can stay in the bench, or like probably if you want to take if you don't want to transfer in the future, you might can have him in the bench, or like you can play him as well, like
mhm.
against Villa, probably Brighton. But
Yep,
other than that, I don't see any point of starting with them. Obviously they are very strong this year as well, and they can get some clean sheet against top team as well. I mean there is obviously chance.
yep. Well said. How about Brighton? I mean, of course, again, it's opposite, right? Their first
Yeah.
three are great fixtures,
Yep.
and then game week six. How are you looking at
It's
Brighton assets in general?
Yeah, in general, the Brighton's fixture is very good. Like with starting with Luton, Wolves, and West Ham, you cannot ask better fixtures than that.
Mhm.
But the problem is they have lots of attackers, and like as Deserve said, and what he did, like end of the last season, he
Mhm.
rotates his attackers as well, and they have Europe later on.
Yep.
So it's very difficult to start with, I think, with their three assets. Like if you start with three assets, then probably you will be stuck in the future.
Mhm.
Unless probably if you want to keep Joao Pedro in the bench like for a few matches, but again, you don't know is he going to play all the games, right? So there will be rotation obviously, so there is a chance that whoever we pick, I mean, we can get burnout for the attackers. For defensive purpose, I mean, S2 is a standard option, and the his price point is nice. I mean, you can hover to any Newcastle or probably any Chelsea defender later on, like game week 4.
Mhm.
But right now probably Chelsea are sorry, S2, and one of the attackers, starting with one of the attackers is fine, I guess, uh, because by that time probably you can jump to another asset like in game week 4. I mean, from game week 4, it is not easy for the defenders, but it will be
Yep.
probably but again, attackers are not nailed as well, so probably it does not worth it to like go further. But it started, I think I would start with at least two
Mhm.
Brighton assets.
Yeah, at least short term, I think it's very targetable
Yeah.
fixtures, so no point in completely avoiding them. We'll talk about Pedro a little bit later. A couple other teams that are of interest are, I would say, Brentford and Aston Villa. Brentford has great fixtures, right? Tottenham at home, and we saw last season and the season before they're a very strong team at home, right? So they have some very very favorable home fixtures against Palace, against Bournemouth, Everton in the first few. They also have Nottingham Forest and Fulham. Those are away fixtures, but again, very very targetable defenses. Those two, right? So in general, Brentford's fixtures are very good. Of course, the downside is that they don't have Ivan Toney anymore. They may buy Brennan Johnson. There were some rumors about it. I'm not sure where that is right now, but they do have Mbeumo and Visa, so there is some interest in Brentford's FPL assets as well, mostly from attacking perspective, but also as a backup defender. Also, they're probably not the worst option in the uh, up to the first wildcard essentially. So, Wrangler, what do you think about Brentford fixture wise?
Yeah, as you mentioned, like the fixture is there. The only missing part is Ivan Tony. But like Mbeumo, I mean, he's on pen, right? And
Hmm.
he could be the target guy. So definitely he's a very good shout. And given the fixture they have, and they are pretty good at home, even against the stronger side, they actually showed that they are capable of scoring goals, right? So yeah, I think it's a good one. They will not have David Raya, who used to save a lot, but I think Flekken should be good too, I believe. So I think Mbeumo and Flekken from Brentford side could be good options, and from like Rico Henry or even Pinnock, like some 4.5 defenders could be also kind of bench
Hmm.
options at least to start. To cover if you need anyone from bench. So yeah, I think it's a good fixture, and Mbeumo could be a very good shout for this fixture run.
Yeah, Mbeumo is of course very popular. He's on penalties too. Uh, I have overlooked him, to be honest, a little bit so far. But if you look at the fixtures, especially if you assume that the season starts from game week 2, they are almost too hard to ignore, other than maybe that Newcastle fixture in game week 5 and maybe Man United in game week 8. Those other five fixtures look really, really good. Even Tottenham is very targetable, right? At least from a defensive perspective. So in on paper, at least their attacking fixtures look tremendously good, right? So uh, I would kind of admit that I have ignored Mbemo because of my past experience with him as an APL asset, right? But I think from a fixture perspective, it's great, great fixtures, right? And being on pens, I think it does make him a great asset. And I think he will be at least 30-35% owned by the deadline. Not sure how much his ownership is right now. I think somewhere around 30% ish. So yeah, definitely a popular asset. The other team that I wanted to touch on was Aston Villa, and again they improved tremendously under Emery in the back end of the season last year, defensively and attacking. From an attacking perspective, we had invested in a lot of their assets last season, especially end of last season. Watkins and Tyrone Mings, etc. Moreno did pretty well from right back as well. So a lot of interest in their FPL assets as well. Their fixtures are again kind of a little bit of mixed bag. Newcastle away is not necessarily the best starting fixture, but if you look past that, at least from an attacking perspective, they look pretty solid. Everton, Burnley, even Liverpool, again, are targetable defense now. Palace, maybe not as targetable, but again, a home game. Chelsea, going through transition. Brighton, again, from a defensive perspective, they are open. So something to look forward to. And Wolves, right? And also Newcastle. I mean, of course, we are saying that it's a bad fixture, but they did beat them pretty convincingly last season, right? Was it like game with 31 or 32, something like that, right? Watkins scored a hat trick. So yeah, I mean that could be something that maybe we're overlooking a little bit. Of course, Watkins is now a popular asset after Nkunku and Jesus got injured. But I think over the season, Aston Villa are going to be a very, very popular team. So maybe not as much other outside Watkins to start the season, but I'm pretty sure we'll talk a lot more about their assets down the road. So that's that. Couple other teams that before we move on, one is Palace, and the other one is Everton for two different reasons. Palace, of course, I mean, we have looked at their data previously, defensive data especially. They were the fourth best team from an XG considered standpoint, right, throughout the season. And like last few game weeks, was it like last 10 or so game weeks, right? They were the best team in the league under Royhurst. And of course, they did face some of the weaker teams as well. Uh, but in general, their defense looked good throughout the season. They kind of underperformed a little bit. It's considered too many goals with respect to how much XG they conceded. But in general, their defense is solid. And the only vested interest is in the goalkeeper, right? So essentially the 4.5 million goalkeeper. Again, we'll talk about that. So I don't want to get too deep into that right now. But again, Palace defense is something that we will look into. And the only bottom half team that's probably worth talking about is Everton, just because of their fixtures, right? So they face Fulham home, Wolves home, and Luton and Bournemouth home, and also Sheffield away. So basically, 5 out of the first 8 fixtures are kind of targetable fixtures, right? And again, the two kind of assets that we have at least spoken about, one being Pickford, uh, for the 4.5 goalkeeper position. And then there were some talks about DCL as well, but I think the coach kind of confirmed that he won't start game week 1 at least. If he did, he could be a good asset as well. But I think right now the only vested interest is in their goalkeeper. And again, when we talk about our dilemmas, we'll touch more on that. But at least I wanted to touch on their fixtures because on paper, Everton's fixtures look pretty good, actually one of the best in the league for the first game weeks. Anything else that you think I missed, Wrangler or ZD?
No, I think it's covered well. We're gonna talk about Eze later. That's from Palace, but yeah, I think
Okay.
we covered almost everything here.
Okay, let's move on to our main topic for today, trying to answer the community questions and dilemmas. So we did ask for some questions on our friends on from FPL USA and FPL BD. They sent us some questions. So let's go through them. Let's go through the questions, and it'll be an open discussion. We are not necessarily going to look at any data or anything. First question, and probably the biggest question right now that will drive how our drafts will look like come game week 1 is Mo Salah or no Salah, right? So that's a question from Dan, and I think Abdullah had a similar question as well, right? Salah or no Salah. So what do you guys think right now? We did discuss it a little bit in our Liverpool focus video. Right now, where are you on it, ZD? Maybe I'll go to you first. Salah versus no Salah, and what are your logic behind one versus the other?
Yeah, so I think that's a difficult question. We always knew that Salah will score points, and we are seeing that in the preseason he's actually scoring goal and assisting. So um, obviously, I think the drafts will be depend on that. So I mean, in the long term, not long term. Say if you think of like from game week 8, game week 10 without any transfer, then probably without Mo Salah, with Rashford, with Bruno Fernandes, Saka, Martinelli, that actually they will probably score more, right? But uh, it is very hard to ignore Salah against Bournemouth. The problem is again Salah is 12.5, and you need to consider two other positions, and you cannot have probably Bruno, Watkins, or like say Bruno Martinelli, those players. So the problem is. Uh, what about the enablers? So in that case, Joao Pedro came to the scenario, and I think we are looking into it with Salah and Joao Pedro. But then again, we need to consider another option, probably like say Mbeumo or like any other option. Probably like you need to downgrade another that mid player. So. Uh, it's a tough one currently. Like I was set in the without any Salah, but now I have to draft again with Salah and no Salah. And without Salah, the problem is again with the two position, right? One
Mhm.
like 2 8 million players. Like what you will do. So in the but that's the issue. So FOMO is actually hitting, of course, but long run. But the problem is I don't see that I will play Salah after game week 2. I mean,
Mhm.
that's another thing. Like, say, if you can ignore Salah in game week 2, I think you know that he will score 10 or 12 points, and just
Yeah.
ignore that because your other players might uh, like overcome that combination, right? And if
Mhm.
you can overcome that, I think you can go with Salah, and that is that will save you like some transfers as well in the futures. So I think in like it depends on the style. If you don't want to spend too many transfer, if you don't want to, if you can have like patience in the long run, then I think you can go for the for no Salah draft, and that will I mean that will pay off. And with Mo Salah, if you want to hop around, like say want to take some minus, you're ready to take some minus hit in on the road, probably then you need to go to, you can go to the Mo Salah. It depends on the managing style, of course.
Yep, absolutely. I think Connor makes a good point. I mean, of course, you can move from Salah to like a KDB, or I mean, in general, if you have Salah, you'll probably not want to sell him anyways, right? You definitely don't want to downgrade him and restructure the team by then. So it's again, as you said, it's kind of your managerial style, right? You know that Salah will do good. I mean, no matter what logic, what or whoever gives, no one is expecting Salah to do poorly, right? Salah will do what he does as always, but it's just that expecting or hoping that the other combination of players will match him at least, right? So that's basically the idea. And captaincy being a thing, right? If it was like a couple years ago, I mean, almost everyone would go for a Salah just because of captaincy and how big of a deal it is for FPL. Uh, because of Haaland, it's kind of almost a non-question, especially given the fixtures that City have as well. So that I think is the killer for me. Nothing else. It's just the captaincy. Other than game week 2, whether I will ever captain Salah at all or not, right? If it was a question, maybe there were a couple other fixtures where I could captain Salah, I would probably be leaning towards that, right? So that's basically the equation for me. So I am very much leaning towards Salah. Of course, there is a little bit of FOMO, but I think it should be okay. And again, we'll see. We'll adapt and adjust. It's just tough to get back to a 12.5 million midfielder if you don't start with him. That's the downside of it, right? Wrangler, any thoughts on right now, Salah? the No Salah?
Yeah, so I'm on No Salah now, and again, we talked about it a lot of time. Basically,
Hmm.
captaincy is one thing, and um, I've, I mean, it's my opinion is that I find it kind of like with Salah, my teams become a little bit less flexible. And Connor actually made a very good point. I mean, yeah, definitely you can do Salah to KDB in game week 3, or I don't know, someone else. But again, you have to sell Salah, right? So otherwise, the package that you get, like if you get Salah, you might have to, say either Joao Pedro or someone kind of
Hmm.
enables, right? And after game week 2, whenever like Liverpool, finish playing Bournemouth, then what do you do? Like what do you do with Joe Pedro, or what do you do with that enabler, right? You cannot sell him and get or upgrade that, right? Because you are probably don't have any money in the bank. So that's where my, like, hesitation is that should I really get Salah, because I have to
Hmm.
sell Salah after game week 2 or 3, and if I do that, then why get him right now? So that's where I am at, and that's why I don't want to get Salah. At least that's my thought process now. So
Okay, all right, makes sense. I think fair to say that all three of us are kind of leaning towards no Salah right now. Of course, things can change from now to deadline. In general, I think we're all leaning towards no Salah. So let's move on to the next question. What to make of Joao Pedro? Scared of rotation, but he opens up so much flexibility. I think this one was from Paz or a buddy. I currently have Pedro in my draft. In general, I like what I saw from him. I didn't catch the games, but I did see the highlights. And seemingly, he's on penalties. Of course, there is no guarantee. It was a practice game. Maybe he's a new player, so the manager or the team just wanted to give him the penalty. Gross was on the pitch, so that's the expectation, essentially, or the hope that he will still be on penalties even when Gross is on the pitch. That's basically the big selling point, right? It's penalties plus him playing significant minutes through the center, either at number 9 or at number 10, right? He can play both roles. So maybe we can move to the next slide. Just when we're talking about Pedro, ZDU, put this together. Some tweet from who was this from? This is from
Seagull,
APL Seagull,
FPL
right? Yeah,
Seagull.
APL
Yeah.
Seagull. So you want to talk through this? What do you
Yeah,
think?
I just
Mhm.
wanted to check out the minutes actually Brighton attackers got, and obviously Gross got highest point, but Gross was mostly playing like a right back or
Mhm.
in DM number 6 position. So except except like penalty, I mean there is no appeal. So and like Mitoma, he got the higher point actually from
Her
a
minutes.
higher
Yeah.
minutes, like among the attackers. And obviously we all kind of know that, I mean that's why Mitoma is in many draft. So here Pedro, if you see, it's like 198 points.
Mm.
And nine but again it's in the misc, right? Like 198, Welbeck is not far behind 184. So the issue is I was checking those four matches, like two of them Pedro started, and
Right.
he played like one of them he played like 71 minutes. And I was trying to see who is rotating with. One is with Pedro and Welbeck. Yeah, well,
Mm.
obviously they played together in last game.
Mm.
But other than that, usually Pedro sub with Welbeck. So uh, it's kind of 60-40, 60-30 minutes time. So seems like one game Pedro might start, another game he might sit, like if unless he score. I mean, it's RDG always like change. That's where the challenge is. And
Mhm.
interestingly, I saw that when Pedro started, Mitoma was not starting unless the last
Mm.
game. So although last game is the a more probable one which they are going to start, but yeah, I was kind of thinking like why he did not start with, he was starting with Enkiso most of the time.
Mhm.
So is
Mhm.
it like Oilbeck and Mitoma starting Lalana number 10 March, in other side,
Yep.
and then when Ulbeck comes, then Enkisu also comes like in place of Mitoma or March, So that kind of combination I was trying to see. I mean, there is no obvious question, but there was a pattern of that one. So I mean, we can obviously have them. He will get the minute. He might get, get a score, but you cannot expect higher from him. Like you
Right.
cannot score, expect that he will score two goals in each game, or
Hmm.
two goals in, like, in two games. It might be two goals in three games, or one goal, one assist in three games. I see it that way, because it is not the he he can give us flexibility, but
Hmm.
probably he's not obviously going to play all 90 minutes in three or those three games we are targeting. That's what I was trying to get out of it, like all of the minutes, it's like mixture of it. But he will play, obviously. Probably he might start, but he will be sub off in 60 70 minutes.
Yep, yep. He's an enabler, right? I mean,
Yeah.
of course, he's an enabler for the Salah draft,
Yep.
100%. And even for a non-Salah draft, he enables to have you a stronger bench,
Hmm.
or basically a
Good
stronger
five
players in other
midfielders.
positions, good five
Yeah.
midfielders, etc. So that's what basically he enables. And the Connor is saying also, I think he's worth the punt, right? You don't necessarily have to stick with him as long as you have either player that you can rotate with, or you have some money in the bank that you can go to, like a Jackson in game week 3, or like a Watkins, or just kind of bench him, right? If you have players in other places, he will come on, right? Even if he doesn't start, I think it's fairly clear he's the I think kind of most expensive buy in Brighton's
Yeah,
history, right?
34 million. Yeah,
Yeah, so
so he's
I don't think he is going to like just sit on the bench forever. Even if he doesn't start, he will get minutes. And even like for a team like Brighton, the last 30-40 minutes could be good as well, right? And we saw
brilliant.
that
Yeah.
with Ferguson too. Ferguson came off the bench and scored braces, right? So that's something that is not something
Hmm.
that pushing me back at all. So I do like him. And again, the fact that he's 5.5 million, I'm not expecting him to like get hat tricks every other game, right? As long as he just trickles along, as long as he enables the other combinations, I'm happy with him. So I am on the side of, I think, wow, Pedro right now. Wrangler, any comments on Pedro?
No, I mean I agree um, with you guys. He's worth the punt. I mean, because he's enabling, right? I mean, you cannot expect much from him, right? So, but again, rotation risk or minutes risk will be there, right? So, Welbeck is there, and Ciso. I mean, and Ciso started, sometimes in the right forward. He also play number 10. We don't know yet. Ferguson is there too,
Yeah.
right? So, there there are a lot of questions there, but again, I mean, at least he showed some promise. I think he was like 30 million or so, like pound, right? So I think Diaby will be willing to use him. And the thing is, like, we don't have Nkunku, or we don't have Jesus right now. The alternatives in the forward is Watkins, who are playing Newcastle, right? So I mean, away, which is not the best fixture, to be honest, right? Versus
Right.
Brighton playing against Luton, and Jackson is another, right, another alternative. And again, they are playing Liverpool in the first game, which is a targetable fixture defensively, as you mentioned, but we don't know that yet, how they're gonna look like without
Mhm,
Nkunku,
mhm.
right? So I think it's worth the punt, right? I'm not on him yet, at least, because to me, like, X minutes, I kind of, I value that a lot, and I kind of feel that, like, I mean, um, there are other, probably, like Watkins could be a good shot, but again, I might move from Watkins to someone else in game week 3, right? So it's kind of booking transfer anyways, right? So I don't mind it, but I have to kind of, I'm kind of debating between him and Watkins and Jackson right now. But
Mhm.
it's a good shout. I think it's worth the punt.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to the next question. I think this one was from Dan Epil underscore gas. Currently have a draft with 2 million in the bank. The urge is to try and spend that money, but I'm happy with it and it gives me flexibility. Your views on keeping a large amount back? I think I mean, I'm doing something similar when we look at my draft. Will see that it's okay. I mean, especially if it gives you flexibility. If you are not certain about some players, uh, by game week 2 or by game week 3, we'll have a lot more information, right? We don't know a lot of things. I mean, preseason can only tell you so much. We saw so much rotation, every player getting like 45 minutes each half, etc. Once the season actually gets rolling, we'll get a lot more information. how the teams are structuring and so on. A lot of good teams, big teams are going through restructure, right? So a lot of new information to come in by game week 2, by game week 3. So I think it's worth, at least this season, given the amount of restructuring that's going on with the big teams, it's worth to hold some fun back and then kind of reassess by the time you get to game week 3, essentially, right? So I think it's a fair enough idea, at least for this season. Any thoughts on that, either of you?
No, I agree. I mean, if you like your team, definitely, it's worth to keep that 2 million or so in your bank, because then after getting few information, you can actually use that money. Some people might think, what, or at least, sometimes it comes to my mind, what, I could get, say, Trent, for example,
Mhm.
right, with the 2 million. But again, I mean, if you have Trent, you have to kind of, keep him for a long time, right? Otherwise, if you just sell him after a few weeks, that cost one, like, four, right? Because each transfer costs 4 points, as we say, right? So it doesn't work in that way. So I think, if you like your team, it's absolutely fine. Actually, I'd like love to have 2 million in my bank, so that I can react, based on the situation that
Mhm.
comes in the future.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to the next question. This is from Derek, our APL USA friend. Uh, since all did well last season, what is one advice pointer that each one of you can give for this upcoming season? Zidi, you want to start? What is your one suggestion for everyone?
So the suggestion is, I think the basic one probably everyone knows, like you need to keep 8 or 9 template player, and probably you should take 2 or 3 punts, not more than that.
Hmm.
So that's one basic thing, and another one I would just say, probably you need to just need you need to have patience, and need to, if it is necessary, you need to jump in the bandwagon. And just
Hmm.
if you don't like the player, you don't, that's why you are not jumping on the player, uh, that might cause an issue. So you need to be open on that case and need to catch the train sometimes. That one
Absolutely.
happened actually with me last year. So
Hmm.
yep.
Absolutely. Wrangler?
Um, well, ZD covered one pretty well. For,
I got your point.
no, I think for my case, I would say, like, at least based on my experience, like, you guys know me, like 3 seasons before I mean, I didn't play anything. I think, I mean, I played FPL for 10 or 11 years, but 3 seasons before I really didn't play anything. Now I think, to me, information is key. Information is very important. Like, now, in last 3 season at least, my experience is that, like, basically, I hail my transfer as late as possible. Like, I was kind of like, you guys know me, right? I used to kind of do the early transfer and catch up with the price changes. But again, I think that's very important. Information is very
Hmm.
key, and you should react accordingly. And another thing I'd like to mention is that the planning is very important. At least planning for 4 to 5, and 8 if you can. I mean, you don't have to, like, like, chalk out everything, but at least kind of have the plan so that you can react. And that actually helps you to also minimize hits, because I actually minimize hits a lot in last 3 seasons, and that helped me also to get better rank. So if you plan accordingly, then your risk actually, sorry, your hit, I think, you become a little bit hit averse as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's one thing I'd like to mention. And whenever you plan, actually, I think, another thing is, like, before the deadline we get panic what transfer you, because we get different leagues, different situation, and then we do a lot of panic transfer, right? And that kind of backfires. But if you have the plan that, if this happens, then I'm going to do this, and that kind of, keeps you, like, remain calm, and you can actually act accordingly. So that helped me a lot, to be honest, and I think that was kind of key for me to do better in last few seasons. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both of you covered most of the things that we do as a group. But the only thing that I would add is trust your decision making process, right? So just keep making good decisions. Don't just get swayed by the outcome of it, right? If it's a bad outcome, it's okay, just move on. Just keep making good decisions, you'll eventually do all right. and just keep at it throughout the season, right? The season doesn't end in the first 5 game weeks or first 8, 10 game weeks, right? ZD, for example, you had uh, did not have necessarily that good of a first half of the season, but you came back very strong, right? So that's a very, very good example right in front of you. So even if you start well with your first wild card, for example, if the first 8 game weeks go bad, you can still come back, right? So just keep making good decisions, uh, trust your own decision making process. Don't just do something arbitrary just for the sake of it, right? So that will be my suggestion. Just keep making good decisions throughout the 38 game weeks, essentially. All right, so
Now,
let's move.
I
Yeah.
just one point. I think both wildcards are pretty important.
Mhm,
Probably you will not say if you're playing wildcard at game week 8, for
mhm.
7 week you might be in the 3 million. I mean,
Oh
don't
yeah.
lose hope on that. I mean, just that wildcard actually can bring you or
Mhm.
like push you like at the top. So
Very fast,
you
yes.
just need to
Mhm.
use the wildcard very wisely. I mean, that's the key actually. I think.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's move on to the next question. Can you share your opinion of Liverpool attackers, X minutes, and rank them aside of Mo? Plus, who will be the top 3 players you would be willing to punt? So, 2 questions. I think the second question is more general. The first question, we covered it well in the Liverpool pod with Nehal. Uh, I would go first. I think X minutes wise, outside Mo, I think Hakpo has a little bit of benefit because until they buy a CDM, he can play the number 8 role as well, and of course he can play number 9. So I think minutes wise, Hakpo is a little ahead of the other three, Jota, Darwin, and Diaz. If you ask me to rank them, I would go. I think Jota, based on what we saw in preseason, Jota one, two would be Diaz, three would be Hakpo because I don't like him when he plays that number 8 role from an FPL perspective, and four would be Darwin. Of course, he scored all the goals and everything, but I just don't trust Darwin as an FPL asset, at least to start the season. We'll of course, as I said before, we'll have more information by game week 3. But for game week 1, for your game week 1 draft, that will be my rank. Jota, Diaz, Hakpo, and Darwin in that order. How about you, Wrangler?
I would actually rank Darwin at the very. I mean, Darwin and Jota are kind of 50-50 actually to me, because I like Darwin actually. He's always exciting, you know, to see. So it's kind of like 50-50 between Darwin and Jota, but I like Darwin to be honest, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
the only thing that discourages me from Darwin is the comment that Klopp made, right? That he needs to do a lot more defensively. That was something concerning, and he actually didn't start the next 2 games following that
right,
comment
yeah.
as well.
Yep. So, but yeah, I mean, I think again we discussed about it.
Mhm,
The answer is probably none, to be honest, because I mean, there are 4 players, 2 positions. There'll be always like minutes. Even if someone starts, he's gonna
mhm.
be probably subbed up in 60, 70 minutes. In the following game, it's gonna be an opposite trend, right? So the answer is to me actually none. But again, if you want me to rank, then it's Darwin, Jota, and Hapko for me.
Good. ZD, how about you?
Yeah, for me it's like Kante, like Jota. I was actually looking to him because feels like he will start probably 2 or 3 games, and
Mhm.
but he will get some minute like 60 minute more than probably little bit more than probably
Yep.
Darwin. If Darwin got the minute, I would say Darwin would be a very good option. But for me, Jota and Diaz, those two actual options. I was thinking
Mhm.
like to take part, like if somebody wants to take it,
Yeah,
and
I
that
think
would be Darwin probably.
yeah, Diaz is a little overlooked, but before he got that big injury, Klopp really, really liked him, right? Post Mane. He
Mm,
was literally playing or starting every game, right? Of course, they didn't have all these players back then. But I think in general, Diaz goes with Klopp's principle of like working hard, right? Putting that
mm.
defensive shift in. So I actually do rate Diaz a lot. And I think we'll see, of course, in the next few game weeks. But I think he will get a lot of minutes at least out of those attackers. But anyway, so let's they had a second part of question right now. This was from Nibir. 3 players that you would be willing to punt on, top 3 players.
One we
Um,
already covered, right? I think Joao Pedro is one. I think we
yeah,
already covered that. Maybe Jackson. That I don't know. I feel that that could be another good
yeah,
shout.
it's
Uh,
still in the punt territory. Yep.
If
yeah.
like I think he has lots of ownership now, but Madison would be very good one.
Mhm. Yeah, the
Like
Yeah.
other player that, I mean, of course, ZD, you spoke about it a little bit. Trippier, right? I mean, we saw that last season. Trippier did rack up points even in the harder games, right? So it's
yeah,
not completely impossible if Newcastle keeps clean sheet. It's almost a sure shot 9 pointer for
yeah,
Trippier,
nine
right?
pointer for sure. Yep.
Like that happened so many times last season, and he also gets those early subs off also, right around the
Yep.
70th minute mark, before Newcastle actually concedes. So I think Trippier, a lot of us will be trying to get Trippier in our teams come game week 4 or 5, almost for sure. But yeah, maybe not for game week 1, but something to look forward to. All right, let's move on. I think we are already at 45 minutes, so we'll try to move fast from here on. Let's move on to some of the dilemmas. So these are not necessarily questions from the community, but these are some of the dilemmas that we think are that we have ourselves to some extent, and also the community has. The first one is Stones versus Chilwell. Wrangler, you want to take this one? I know you yourself has this dilemma.
Yeah. So that's why you put me on the spot.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I think it's a 50-50. It's really a 50-50 call. So I think I have Stones in my draft right now, but I mean, I plan to move to Chilwell at some point from game week 3, especially. I don't know whom I'm gonna get rid of to get Chilwell, but Chilwell actually has better attacking, um, possibility or potential. And I mean, we saw that before as well, right? Whenever he was fit, he was always kind of, he had that attacking threat. So, and from game week 3, the fixture looks awesome for Chelsea. And we just saw the fixture. Man City also have, I think, Super Cup final versus Sevilla in the mid game week between game week 1 and game week 2, right? So I
Mhm.
don't know. I mean, that's kind of, that kind of put me off of Stones a little bit because I'm not sure he's gonna be starting. He should, but again, I rate Chilwell over Stones a little bit because of the attacking threat. But again, it's a complete 50-50. I don't know what's your take on that? But I'm slightly like 55-45 on Chilwell right now.
Yeah, I think it's we have looked at numbers before, right? Of course, Chilwell has a lot more attacking impetus in comparison to Stones, significantly better attacking impetus. Right? Stones has some attacking potential when he does invert. Uh, from open play, he has a little bit. Of course, from corners, etc., set pieces, he has some more threat. But I think Chilwell in general has a lot more attacking potential. He is the kind of left back that you expect to score goals, right? Essentially, and that's what you want from your defenders once in a while, at least. So I do absolutely rate Chilwell, and I spoke about it in the Chelsea pod too. That he is looking like the wing back that has the license to go forward, burst forward, right? Reese is staying back, and not necessarily that will always be true, but at least from the preseason games, it looks like Chilwell is the guy that's playing as almost like the fourth attacker, right? So that's what's swaying me towards him. Stones is a great pick because of Man City's defense in general. We expect them to keep a lot of clean sheets. Last season was a little bit of anomaly, but in general, we do expect them to keep a lot of clean sheets. Uh, but again, there is a little bit of rotation risk as well, right? So there is, of course, Gavardiol in the team now. There is AK, there is Akanji, there is Diaz. Walker gets some minutes as well, right? Pep wanted Walker to stay. I don't see Walker being benched every game either, right? So he will also get some minutes. So there is a little bit of rotation risk there. I mean, he will still probably play, say, 6 out of the first 8 game weeks for sure, almost for sure. But there, can you take the other two benching on the chin and move on? If you can, still is a good pick. But my thought process was more on the line that I would absolutely want a Chelsea wing back from game week 3 onwards, potentially from game week 2 onwards. Game week 2 is West Ham, right? So I don't mind that game either. So no doubt, no matter how Chelsea looks like in the first game against Liverpool or even in the second game, I would absolutely want a Chelsea wing back, more likely Chilwell from game week 3 anyway. So why not start with him? And I think he is pretty nailed, especially what we see from Kukurea end of last season and also in the preseason. I don't think there is a minute risk necessarily with Chilwell. Of course, he can get subbed off maybe at around 70, 75th minute, which is not the worst thing anyways for a defender. But yeah, I think I would say I read, if you had to pick a percentage, I would say 70% towards Chilwell over 30% Stones. That's my thought process.
Yeah, and you actually made a good point. Like Chilwell, like 70, 75 minutes. I think that's good because I think we were discussing, right? That I mean, now since the rule has been changed, right? And like if they concede like 105th minute, then the clean sheet is gone, right? So
Mhm, mhm.
whenever Chilwell is subbed off at 75 minutes or so, that means probably Chelsea is ahead. We can hope that, and that's when probably he's getting subbed off and probably Cucurella is coming. But if Chelsea is kind of, uh, like trailing, then probably, I mean, he's gonna play the whole 90 minutes, right? So
Yeah,
um, it's a good point. Do you want to talk about Reece James as well here? He got the like captaincy. I
yeah,
see that. So you
yeah,
want to talk
yeah,
about the
yeah.
Chelsea, like Reece James here too?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I'm very happy for him in the first place. He deserves that. Of course, a lot of injuries over the last couple of years, but he's a great player. And even from an FPL perspective, we have seen how destructive he can be. He could potentially be on penalties, especially in the absence of Nkunku. There is a slight likelihood. Of course, Sterling can take those. Enzo Fernandez can take those as well, but that's kind of added potential from an FPL perspective. I think it will be a very viable option. And that's why I want to keep some money back so that I can at least move around those pieces to have both Chilwell and Reece in our teams by game week 3. If he shows good sign of fitness, if he shows some attacking potential, he could still be on free kicks, corners, etc. Even if he is sitting back, right? We saw that last season as well when he was being used as the right center back. He did still take a lot of corners, a lot of free kicks, and if penalties, that's even like a bonus, massive bonus. So yeah, I do like Reece as an FPL asset, as I said in the video as well. I think after Chilwell and Jackson, again in the absence of Nkunku, Reece is the third potential best FPL asset right now from Chelsea. But yeah, I wouldn't start with him just because of a little bit of fitness concern. Let's look at the first couple of game weeks, see how he looks like, and then move on to him. All right. Want to move on to the next dilemma? Watkins versus Pedro versus Jackson. We spoke about it. Pedro, of course, we already spoke about it. He enables other players. Uh, let's talk about Watkins and Jackson. ZD, how are you uh, looking at those two players?
I think right now probably with all the injuries, Watkins is one, like the first choice to me. I mean, he can score in against difficult opponents as well. So and like obviously nailed fully. So he's very good asset. Like the if I don't go with Salah, obviously I will keep Watkins somehow. But if I go Salah, probably I need to make that sacrifice. But to me, if you just rank like without other assets, I think I would take
Yep.
Watkins and then probably Pedro because of his fixture, and Jackson would be little later because and to see how Chelsea plays first two games, and without Nkunku, what will be the team's dimension and like how much Jackson is getting the chances, because anyway their fixtures are
Mhm.
turning on good and like from game week 3, so probably I might not start with him, but he's obviously like if nobody wants to book the transfer ahead of it, then they can start with Jackson as well. But my rank is Watkins, Pedro, and Jackson.
Makes sense. Wrangler?
It's actually Watkins, Jackson, and Pedro for me, and I'm kind of debating between Watkins and Jackson, and it depends on the Stones versus Chilwell. So if I get Chilwell now, then I might take Watkins so that in game week 3 I can transfer out
At
Watkins
least
to
have one
Jackson. But
Chelsea asset. Yeah.
yeah, but again, I mean, Watkins is playing versus Burnley in game week 3. It's difficult, very difficult to get rid of him in game week 3. But again, I mean, I will see how it looks like. But in isolation, I like Watkins first, and then Jackson, and then Pedro. So that's my ranking.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Watkins, Jackson, and Pedro in that order. The only reason that I'm starting with Pedro and not Watkins is to have that fund flexibility, right? Because I want to look at other options, whether I want to say Trent becomes an option all of a sudden, right? He's absolutely smashing everything, or I want to maybe move to uh, Salah in the midfield if he is smashing everything, or I want to just grab another 8.0 midfielder instead of Watkins. Maybe if someone else pops up, right? There could be other options again by game week 3. I just don't like that game week 1 fixture that much, so that's the only reason that I'm taking that chance to kind of assess Watkins and Aston Villa in general and see if there are other options that pops up. As ZD mentioned, there are just no other options right now. Watkins becomes an automatic option because of Jesus and Nkunku's injury. Um, until that, no one was even talking about Watkins, right? Despite his performance last season. So yeah, that's. But in general, I would agree with that. Watkins, Jackson, and Pedro in that order. All right, let's move on to the next one, the goalkeepers. Onana, Johnstone, Flekken, and others. We have touched on this in our previous pods. Wrangler, you have also spoken about this. Where are you right now on the goalkeepers?
I am on Onana right now. I mean, again, in isolation, I like Onana over all of them here, right? But again, he comes with zero point 0.5 million more like money, right? So
Mhm.
that's the um, issue or concern here, the dilemma here, that that 0.5 million, where are you gonna spend? If you think that that 0.5 million is gonna be very crucial down the line, then I think it's fine to get any of the 4 million Johnstone, Flecken, and actually Pickford here as well, because as we discussed, right, Everton's fixture actually look very good, right, and Pickford also has like save potential. So but basically you have to see that zero point 0.5 million whether it's going to be crucial or not down the line from game week 3, 4, whatever it is. I'm on Onana now, but for between amongst Johnstone, Flecken, and Pickford, it's three-way contest to me. I mean, I know you guys all are on Johnstone, but I'm not very much bullish on him, at least, because I see that, like, I think I posted that as well. Like Palace's like fixture, I mean, like, was really easy in last 10 games in the last season, and that's where their like XG considered like that rank kind of inflated a lot. I mean, I don't want to undermine, but they really did very good. But
Mhm.
that's just my hesitation there. But I think otherwise he's good. So yeah.
Zidi, where are you on the goalkeepers?
Um, for me, I was in Onana for a long time, and like as Wrangler already talked, like during the fixture analysis, like Manu's defense in general good. Like long term, I think Onana is a better option because it is like kind of set out and forgotten. You don't need to worry about it. But uh,
Mhm.
again, that point five you can use any other places. That put me off from him. Like last few days, I'm at Johnstone, so but again Johnstone, like I'm not totally like convinced with him as well. Like Pickford is in many draft as well. Fleck and Brentford has very good fixtures, so probably but I might start with 4.5, not with Onana, just because I need that point five probably. So it could be Johnston, Pickford, and Fleck, and any of this. But right now it's in Johnston and could be Johnston in the long way.
Yeah. I think the way I have thought through this, and again, Onana has never been in any of my drafts so far. Uh, the only reason being that he's 5 million, right? And I never want to start with a 5 million goalkeeper because that's too much of a commitment for a goalkeeper. And again, from even preseason, we have seen that. I mean, because they are still learning to play from the back, right? Onana will be great. He will do great. He will be great with passing and so on. but I think they will concede goals, right? I mean, because of the new structure, they will get better over the season. But I think early in the season there will be mistakes. So I'm not too keen on Onana. Again, I'm of course justifying it because he's 5 million. But in general, of course, so what has happened in the last few days is Turner has gone from Arsenal to Forest. So both Pickford and Johnstone actually rotate nicely with Turner, right? So the tougher fixtures for Johnstone and Pickford, you can actually play Turner. I don't like necessarily goalkeeper rotation either, but it's kind of that convenient thing, right? If you can play a 4 million goalkeeper when your main goalkeeper has a tough-ish fixture or tough fixture, why not, right? So it's not something that I ideally like either, goalkeeper rotation, but I think there is an opportunity to do that, to save that extra 0.5 million, have just invest 8.5 million goalkeepers and have pretty decent fixtures for the first 7-8 game weeks, right? So that's what's pushing me towards Johnstone. As I said before, I generally like Crystal Palace's numbers. They did underperform a little bit last season. Just going from a long-term underlying number perspective and looking at how Roy Hodgson is as a coach by principle, I think I like Crystal Palace. I trust Crystal Palace's defense in general. So yeah, and I am on Johnstone right now as well. Flekken is a little bit of iffy, right? I mean, of course, Raya has left. He is going to Arsenal, as we have learned today. Uh, and in general, his Bundesliga performance was also pretty good from a goalkeeping perspective, from a goal saving perspective. But we have not seen enough from him in the preseason to say that he is still kind of bedded in into the team, right? So that's why I'm not too high on Flecken. Um, I know a lot of the models are actually pretty high on Flecken and some on Steele as well. Steele is also 4.5 million, the Brighton goalkeeper. But there is also that bit of problem with the Verbruggen. He could also play and still may not be the first choice, long-term first choice at least. So yeah, I mean, long story short, with also yesterday we learned that Guaita doesn't want to play for Palace anymore. So Johnston is absolutely nailed as number one. So out of the all the 4.5 goalkeepers, including Pickford as well, I just don't like Everton, right? I don't want to uh, hope for an Everton clean sheet, right? And then just sit there and even watch a Everton game in the first place just because I have Pickford. So yeah, I mean, from all that, I think I prefer Johnston and then Onana out of these three, and then Flecken. That would be my ranking in general.
Yeah, if you
All right.
just see about 0.5 million, I mean, if I need that 0.5
Mm-hmm.
million, then I will probably move to any of the 4.5 and probably
Yeah.
Johnstone out of this, like, Pickford or Flecken. But yeah, right now, no, 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 but that 0.5 million might be very crucial, as Nehal was saying, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I have to kind of see. And as you are saying, also like Reece James, that actually didn't come to my mind. But now I think that if I want a third Chelsea asset, and if that's Reece James, then that 0.5 million might be crucial. So I have to
Could be
think about
crucial.
it. So.
Yes. Yep. All right. Okay. Next one. Midfielders: Mbeumo, Mitoma, Eze, and Maddison. Again, we have touched on Mbeumo and Mitoma. So let's talk about Eze and Maddison. Zidi, what do you think of these two guys?
Yeah, I like Madison a lot. So, like, he's in my draft as well. If I like, obviously, there is a recency bias from the last game.
Mm-hmm.
Like Kane scored 4 goals and he played superbly, but I do think like if they will if they play attacking games and Kane is in there, there is no reason like Madison won't get any point, and they are obviously quality team, right? So that's why I just like Madison, but obviously there is a risk like, but obviously we can use our transfer. But say if Kane leaves, and then probably if we suddenly Madison could be non-option again, it could be an option because he's a good player anyway. In Leicester he was talisman as well. So I like Madison, and Easy is very good, but just Crystal Palace attack. So that's why probably uh, but I'm on 6.5. I like Easy, but if you compare with Madison, I age a little bit Madison than Easy.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. I think let me rank those four and Wrangler outcome to you then. Madison, and again because as you said, Tottenham looks tremendously attacking. Their defense is poor, very poor. but they just are going for all of it, right? They had like 100 shots in the last 3 games or so, something like that. The and Maddison is kind of at the heart of all of it, right? He is attacking from the middle, he is moving to the left wing, crossing the ball to Kane, and so on. So if Kane stays, it makes him a lot better asset. Even if Kane does move, he could still be good, right? He still is a good FPL asset. So I definitely rate Maddison higher than these three. My next, I think, would be Mbeumo just for the fixtures. We spoke
Hmm.
about it before when we were talking about fixtures. Because as soon as you move to game week 2, you will feel like, how come I don't have a Brentford attacker, right? Their fixtures are that good, right? Starting from game week 2. So that for that reason, I would say Mbeumo, then Mitoma, and then Eze. Basically, I mean, 3 and 4 pretty equal. I would say both number 3, kind of. So yeah, Maddie, Mbeumo, Mitoma, and Eze. Angler, how about you? You're
You're on
muted.
mute.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry, I was on mute. So yeah,
Mm.
basically Madison, in isolation, definitely, and he's kind of a little bit, expensive as well, right? So, but I think, if you can afford, definitely, you, at least I would get Madison over, all of these three, if funds permit. After Madison, Mitoma for me, their fixture actually looks so good. I mean, I would not
Mhm.
be surprised in first game week. I mean, in the first game they just
Yep.
win like 4-0 or 5-0, and Mitoma will have involvements, right? So
Mhm.
even if they get penalties, right? Because Luton might play like low block, and Mitoma actually
Mhm.
kind of cuts inside the box a lot, which kind of can create the penalty chance, and he might get the assist there too. So I actually rate Mitoma, and then Mbeumo is the kind of third for me. So,
Okay. Yeah, Nehal added Diaby in there as well. We'll talk about Diaby in a little while. But yeah, he's saying matters is a Diaby, Mbeumo, and Mitoma. It's close, right? I think all of us agree that if fun permits, Madison is the far better pick. And then the other 6.5s are pretty close. Right at this moment, I just don't like feel very highly about any of the 6.5 minutes, and maybe that's just my pre kind of perception, as I said about Mbeumo as well. Uh, but yeah, if funds permit, I would absolutely go for Madison over any of this. Next one, ZD, you want to take this on, Martinelli versus Odegaard?
I don't want to take this one. uh, I mean, I think Martinelli has the explosiveness, although Ode had the higher point last year, and he might still score. But I think Marty Nelly, I mean, he's always the last man, right? Tries to make
Mhm.
the run. So I like Martinelli, and I I think to start, I'm going to start with Martinelli and Odegaard. Um, s- Odegaard, his data is always good, and he makes run. And he will play if they play 4-2-3-1. Probably he will be in the middleman, and if Havertz is not in there, obviously he will make those runs. So Ode is quite good option as well. But like budget wise, as Martinelli is point 0.5 cheaper as well, and I
Mhm.
don't see his will be like X minute risk, at least to start with. So that's why I mean I'm in Martinelli's side, like at least to start with. In the long run, probably if he scores, and Trossard will be there, I know, but I mean. I think he'll be like he'll play 70-75ish minutes, so I am okay with that because he might like the fixtures are so good, he might score 1 or 2 goals. And but there is, I mean, they are both of very same boat. But and for that point five, I would just go with Marty.
Yep. Wrangler, how about you?
yeah, ZD covered it pretty well. I don't want to talk more. I'm on Martinelli over Odegaard. So
Yeah, same here as well. I mean, if Odegaard was 8 million, I
Yeah.
think there was a very high chance that I would be on Odegaard over Martinelli. Models have him higher than Martinelli as well over the first 8 games, just because of minutes, right? As you mentioned. But yeah, I think that 0.5 million could go a long way elsewhere. Of course, you have to use it well, but right now I'm on Martinelli over Odegaard. Um, all right. So the last dilemma question was the best 4.5 defenders to start with. We have spoken about a few throughout our other preview videos. We have spoken about Colwill a little bit. There is Botman. There are the Aston Villa boys,
Aston
right?
Villa,
Mings, Pau Torres, etc., etc. Maybe
Cash.
not Pau, Cash, and so on. There are the Brentford boys, right? Rico Henry or Pinnock, and so on. And they are kind of the guys that you don't necessarily plan to play every game week either, right? You kind of plan to play them in the every other game week when they have the right fixtures and so on. I think, and I spoke about it in the Chelsea pod too. Colwill is a good option if you're looking for an enabler, but you cannot expect him to start every game either. I think there is enough competition in the center back with Thiago Silva, with Badia Shil, with Chaloba still in the mix, and we also bought another new center back in Disasi. He may go to a loan, of course, but if he stays back, there is even more competition. So I just don't feel like that he will be like 90 minutes guy every game week. And even last season, if you look at Brighton's how they used him, he wasn't necessarily playing every game, right? Despite him being that good, he was still being rotated with Webster. He's still very young, right? So he's a very, very good defender, absolutely no doubt. I'm just not too keen on him from an APL perspective quite yet. I would rather even have a Botman over him, or one of the Aston Villa or Brentford guys. I think overall, if we just think of from a defensive perspective, from a fixtures perspective, Aston Villa makes a lot of sense in the long run if you are planning to not wildcard until say game week 13, 14, something like that. Uh, in the short term, Brentford makes a lot of sense. We spoke about their fixtures being good, and in general at home they are a pretty solid defense as well. Of course, no new goalkeeper, so that could be an option. Raya was saving a whole lot chances last year. But yeah, I think out of those four, and of course please chime in if you have anyone else in mind, I would rank uh, I think Brentford defenders first, then Aston Villa, then Botman from Newcastle, and then Colwill, or basically between one of them, Botman and Colwill, because you can again rotate with the other players given their fixtures and so on. But yeah, what are your thought process right now, Wrangler?
Yeah, very similar. Nehal actually in the chat put a good shout. Udugi, that's a
Oh
good
yeah, I
shout.
forgot about Udogi. Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely good attacking potential as well,
Mhm.
right? I think he scored a goal, I think, in one of the preseason games.
Mhm.
So, but again, for Udogi, I need to see a little bit more for the Spurs in first few games. So that's why fixture wise, Brentford again for me. So I'm right now actually on Rico Henry, or it could be Pinnock, but I am on one of them. And then Villa, as you mentioned. I used to be on Botman first, but then I actually felt that these players price may drop because you might not
Mhm.
need Botman, right? You might
Until
need
game
him,
week 5 or so. Yeah.
right? And by that time, the price might drop down to 4.4 or 4.3, which I don't like, to be honest. Which is probably
Mhm.
okay, but again, I don't like it, right? So at least I feel that's why I'm not on hot on Botman right now. So yeah, Brentford boys, Villa, Udogi, I like it, but I need to see it, and then probably Portman.
Yeah, I think the
So
concern with Udogi is again like how you want to use your 4.5 defender, right? You want someone that plays every game? Udogi is probably not yet the guy, right? He may not get the start in every other game and so on. But if you're looking for the upside, absolutely, I think Udogi is kind of supersedes everyone else on the other guys that we spoke about. ZD, any thought on the 4.5 defenders?
Yeah, for me, I think I was in Aston Villa defender for a long time. I like Cash, although I think in the long run he has
Mhm.
some slight rotation worry. But like we will have 4 million defenders in the bench as well. So for me, it's actually I like Aston Villa defenders more because if
Yep.
they are like fourth defender, then Aston Villa, like mostly Cash, I would say. And I think Minks also, he's like nailed. He should be nailed. If he's nailed, then Minks could be an option, like Cash or Minks. And then Brentford for me, but I would rate little bit Aston Villa higher, and especially Cash, because like he has like lots of attacking potential.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so let's move
I
on.
have a question for
Yeah,
Wrangler
go ahead.
before
Yeah.
moving. Yeah, so what do you think about Garnacho, like at 5 million, like for first 2 3 game weeks?
I think he's gonna start the first game. That's I think that's my like I have a strong feeling about it. He, he did start. I think I don't know how we had 8 preseason games. I think 2 to 3 games he started in the left uh, as a left wing. So he's a good shout, but again, he's only 5 or 5 million, 5.5, right? I think you cannot expect much. But whenever he's on the pitch, he always looks glamorous. So you expect him to be subbed off if he even if he starts, you expect him to be subbed up like around in 60 or 65 minute each if he starts because Sancho is there as well, right? So
Hmm.
he's waiting. So um, yeah, he's a good shout. He looks good, but minute wise, he'll always have risk.
Yeah, I just want him like for first 2 3 games for my Salah draft. So that's why I was thinking about him, because I mean, I will talk about him when we'll go
Right.
to the draft. But yeah, I
I
was
think he's
thinking
gonna
about.
appear in all the games. By the way,
Okay,
even if he's if he's bench, even in last season also we saw that Ten Hag actually doesn't wait to do sub. Like whenever he needs to do the sub, he just do it. Even it's 60 minutes or
okay.
55 minutes. So I think it's a game state. But whenever he started, he really didn't do well much. He got few chances in last season as well. But in the preseason, actually, he looked really good. And since we don't have like Rasmus Højlund, I think Rashford is going to start in number 9. So Garnacho is going to start at least the first game. That's my.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right. So we have spoken about this. Let's talk about our under the radar pick for the week. So we'll try to do this every week this season, moving forward as well. So our first under the radar pick of the season is Musa Diaby. Uh, Again, I think very good buy from Emery. Another very good buy. He has made like Marquez signings over the last couple of transfer windows. Diaby has been a consistent player for Leverkusen over the last 4 seasons. He was in Paris Saint Germain before that. Very consistent numbers, right? Point 0.5 ish non penalty XGI over 4 seasons is very good, right? If you see that from any player, even if it's Bundesliga, I think that's a fairly good sign for to kind of estimate what's coming. And I think he will be a regular starter as well for Villa. We'll see how that goes. But I think again, for not game week 1, maybe if you are the kind of guy that wants to see first what he offers. But again, somewhere during the season when Aston Villa has good fixtures, and their fixtures are actually pretty good in general up to game week 13, 14. They don't face like City, Arsenal, Man United until game week 15 or so. So in general, in the long term, up to game week 14, their fixtures are pretty good. So Diaby could definitely become an option. I know Nehal is very big on him. I think he has his on his draft also right now. Um, but yeah, I think he can definitely be one of those guys who kind of becomes like the mid-priced star in FPL this season. But yeah, he is our pick under the radar pick for this week. We'll try to at least come up with someone every week and see how that goes over the season. All right, so let's move on to. Before we move on to our drafts, just a quick look at the matchups. Wrangler, you want to talk through this quickly?
Yeah, this is just a game week 1 matchup. So basically, along x-axis, so this data is just based on the last season data. I mean, this is the first game week, right? So along x-axis is each team's xg per 90, and along y-axis is the like each team's opponent's xg considered per 90. So essentially, like top right quadrant is basically team's xg is good. That means their defense offense is good, and um, the opponent defense is bad, right? So that's what you look for first quadrant. And second quadrant, you can read out, right, that basically XG is low, but the opponent defense is bad as well. Of course, like the Burnley, Sheffield, and Luton, like those data are from the championship, right? And um, essentially, Man City and Brighton and Palace should be in upper quadrants, right? Because those are promoted teams, and the XG considered data that we have is basically from the championship, and
Mhm.
that should not be take it granted for the Premier League, right? We saw, I think it's 1.6 ish, something like the difference times, right?
Yep.
The promoted teams like goal scoring capability between the championship and the Premier League. So, anyways, so here I think we can talk about the captaincy discussion as well, right? That in the top right quadrant we see that Arsenal is playing against Nottingham Forest, very good fixture, and that's what you see in the top right quadrant. Man United playing against Wolves, that's a very good fixture as well. Man City and Brighton should be also in top, like in the first quadrant as well, given their opponents, Burnley and Luton. So those are the four teams, and well, definitely Liverpool is playing against Chelsea, and we expect Chelsea to do good, but again, based on last season data, Liverpool also fall under in the first
Yeah.
quadrant. So let's have the discussion about the captaincy. What are your captaincy right now on? I mean, Arsenal and City both have very good fixtures. Even Man United also have very good fixture versus Wolves, right? So are you on Salah, or like any Arsenal boys kind of intrigue you for captaincy in this game week 1?
Yeah. Right now I'm on Saka. Um, and again, I mean, of course, it can change. Haaland is going to be very, very, very highly EO, right? So at least maybe 170, 180% for sure. And it's a good fixture. Although it's Burnley away, and Burnley did put good numbers in the championship, very, very good numbers, actually, impressive numbers defensively in the championship. But it's a different league altogether, and it is Man City, right? And it is Haaland. So it's very hard to go against him, especially given that it's first game week. But at the same time, this being the first game of the season, um, I don't necessarily mind going against Haaland, especially given that Arsenal have the fixture against Nottingham Forest. I mean, all know how poor Forest can be. It's a good matchup for Saka as well. I mean, again, of course, my mind can change, but I'm kind of leaning towards just captaining Saka, taking a chance. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Haaland scores a hat trick, and I go behind like 16, 17 points with respect to the rest of the crowd. Um, so yeah, I don't necessarily mind that, so I think it's a good enough opportunity to go against the grain, to go against Haaland in game week 1. Moving from like game week 2 onwards, on of course again game week 2 Haaland plays Newcastle. That's another tough-ish fixture. Newcastle, is that home or away? Newcastle home, right? The
Newcastle home,
second
Newcastle
yeah.
game.
home.
Yeah, Newcastle home. So that will be something to talk about. But in general, I'm not sure who put that tweet together, but I was reading it yesterday, I think maybe for Alex or Forlex on Twitter. The difference in performance in general from Man City and from Haaland. All four of his hat tricks were home games. Mm, Majority of his goals in general were home games. The big hauls that he got were all are home games. Man City's attacking performance from a team perspective in general is a lot better, and of course it's connected. If Haaland does well, Man City does do well, and if Man City do well, Haaland does well as well. But I, it being an away fixture, the first game of the season, um, I don't completely disagree with captaining Saka for this game. So yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards, I would say, 60-40 towards captaining Saka. How about you, ZD?
For me, it's 50-50 between Saka and Haaland. I mean, I have Saka as captain, but last year I did not have the Haaland because they had West Ham away and it started with Kane. So I have that FOMO that he has Burnley away, which could be difficult because they will play low block and try to stop Haaland, and it's an away game.
Mhm.
But again, it's Haaland we are talking about, right? So
Right.
he could easily score. Uh, like couple of goals. But again, if Saka scores, basically it should match, right? So in that case, we should not be fear of that. And Arsenal should
Mhm.
score some goals against Tottenham Forest, right? Because Forest defense is not bad, is not good. I mean, if you check out this data as well. So I think you can go to Saka. It's fair option. But obviously, like there is a chance, like what you said. You explained it well, very well.
Mhm.
And uh, but obviously, Haaland will be popular option. But Saka, we can go against Saka. What about Rashford? What do you think, Wrangler, about Rashford?
He's a good shout, but again, not over Haaland and Saka. So he could be a third captaincy shout, I would say, but I would rank Saka and Haaland over him.
Yep.
Um, I'm actually on Haaland right now. I mean, I
Mhm.
even didn't think about Saka captaincy, um, at least as of now. So yeah, I mean, unless I get a news that Haaland is not starting, which is it's not probably not
Mhm.
going to happen. But yeah, I'm on Haaland right now. But yeah, Saka is definitely at least based on the opponent data, everything. Arsenal should win 3-4 nil. I think at least that's the expectation and hope. Uh,
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean it's a tough one, right? I mean, of course, it's your risk appetite, how much risk you want to take in game week one itself. Um, but yeah, Haaland is just the safe choice, right? You don't have any
Yeah.
headache. No other player would probably be above 100% EO, anyways. This game week, at least in game week one, so you don't lose anything, almost lose nothing with from other players either. So yeah, I mean, if you want to play it safe, absolutely, Haaland captain. If you want to take a chance, um, yeah, I think Saka is probably the second best option out of all the players, all the other players. You wanted to add anything else, Wrangler?
No, yeah, I think my also like I mean, what I'm expecting here is that Liverpool versus Chelsea game and Tottenham versus Brentford game. These two games probably will have goal galores. At least that's what I was thinking.
Mhm.
We'll see because Liverpool's like their defense didn't look good, but their offense, like even in preseason, right? They scored 3 to 4 goals in every game, right? And
Right.
we might see the same thing in this. But again, defensively also they were shaky, so Chelsea might capitalize that. So that's one game I see a lot
Mhm.
of goals, and also Spurs versus Brentford. That's another um, game. I think there could be a lot of
Good for
goals.
both attackers, right? Good for
Exactly.
both,
So yeah,
both teams essentially. Yep.
yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's move on to our drafts, and we'll go through this fast because a lot of the players are common. So I'll just read out my team. This is my team right now. This is my draft for game week one. Johnstone at goalpost, Saliba, Estupinian, Chilwell. In the defense, in midfield, I have Bruno, Maddison, Martinelli, Rashford, and Saka captain right now. Up front, I have Joao Pedro and Haaland. On the bench, I have Areola right now. Most likely that will become Turner for all of us. And then I have two 4.0 million defenders in Baldock and Bear. Baldock has a game in game week two, Bear doesn't. So at least that gives me a little bit of cover if I need someone in game week two. For the 4.5 million forward, I'm not still sure. I mean, of course, Mbeumo is the guy that got a lot of minutes for West Ham in preseason and got goals as well. But there could be other 4.5 forwards. We didn't necessarily talk about it at all. Kind of non-point in a way, but again, in the next couple of days, who knows? I saw like some 4.5 forwards named this afternoon on Twitter. I even forgot his name, but we'll see. I mean, that's kind of a placeholder for any 4.5 million forward. I have 2.5 million in the bank. As I said before, also I kind of like that to have the flexibility moving forward onto game week two and game week three. I like Pedro's fixtures in game week one over Watkins. Otherwise, I would just have started with Watkins. So I want to take that chance, take that short term punt with Pedro in game week one, and then see if I want to move on to Watkins later in game week two or game week three. I have enough funds to do that, just have enough funds to do that. Or if I want to maybe move on to like a midfielder or maybe even shuffle to go get to a Salah and so on, so that I don't have to reshuffle too much. I still have enough funds in the bank to do it in two moves, or if Trent becomes an option, right? If he looks absolutely on it, I can get to that as well. So yeah, just I think I like that flexibility part of it. I don't necessarily like that I have two 4.0 mid defenders. That I think the big weakness in my team. I could have gone for a 4.5 defender, but then I would have only 2 million, and I wouldn't be able to move to from Pedro to Watkins directly. I can still do Pedro to Jackson. That would still be there, but I don't want to lose any of my midfielders. Right, I absolutely love my five midfielders. I am, as I said before, I am uh, on the boat with No Salah right now, because I think all these five midfielders can match Salah in the short term, at least. In the long term, we all know Salah will probably come up to be the best midfielder in the game over the season. But in the short term, I think all of these guys have the right fixtures and they're playing for the right great teams to score enough points to uh, overcome not having Salah essentially. Maria, any thoughts in general? I mean, pretty template. I have Saliba, of course, not Gabriel, the Twitter template guy, but that's kind of a random pick. I just want to. Gabriel just sounds a little too boring, looking at that everyone is picking him. So I just wanted to go for a Saliba. But yeah, any other thoughts on my team in general?
No, I think, I mean, this is a good team. I just wanted to ask you that how much locked you are in this team, like out of main 11, which spots are locked, or
I
which
would
spots are
say
not locked yet?
my whole defense is locked. At least the first 11. Johnstone, Saliba, two, and Chilwell locked. Rashford and Saka absolutely locked. Haaland, of course, locked. So those six, I would say, 100% locked. And then the other four, of course, changes depending on whether I go Salah or no Salah, right? But in if you want ask me to rank them, I would say Bruno, just because of minutes and the fact that he's on penalties. I like him more than Martinelli and Maddison. So he is pretty nailed, pretty close to being nailed, I would say. So yeah, it's basically between those three guys, Martinelli, Madison, and Wow Pedro. If I go Salah versus no Salah, those are the three positions that will change or shift around essentially.
Oh, so if you are on no Salah, then this is kind of locked, right? But if you take
Yeah,
Salah, then
that's
this is different discussion. But
yeah.
with no
The
Salah, I mean, basically,
mm,
you're not thinking of changing anything else here.
yeah, that no Salah. The only two things that are in my mind is whether I want to go for a Mitoma over Madison, because I want that Brighton attack cover. If I don't have Pedro, for example, right? If I go from Pedro to Watkins, I still have the funds to do that. If I go from Pedro to Watkins, I can downgrade Madison to uh, a Mitoma and still have 1 million in the bank, essentially. So that's a possibility between those two guys. If I have no Salah, those are the only two positions that can potentially change.
Okay, yeah, good team. Liked it. Good luck.
Mhm. All right, let's move on to your team, Wrangler.
Okay, so I am very much template FC. Like it's completely like Twitter template. So I don't think I have anything in my bank. It's all used up here.
Looks
So
like you have everything used up. Yeah.
yeah, so Onana is there at least as of now. But again, as I said, I need to kind of do some sort of planning here that if I really need point 0.5 million here and there down the line, and then in that case I will take Johnstone or any of the 4.5, probably Johnstone.
Mm.
Estupinian, Stones, and Gabriel in the defense. So Gabriel can be Saliba, but again, right now Gabriel. Bruno, Mitoma, Rashford, Saka, and Martinelli, and Haaland and Watkins right now. So I'm kind of, I think out of 11, I'm also set on 7 positions. I think I'm gonna take Chilwell um, over Stones in here, because again I want Chilwell from game week 3 for sure. So why not taking now? So that's one position actually I'm still debating, and also Onana position is there too. And the thing that you just mentioned, right? That Brighton coverage in the first game week, and that's why I took Mitoma here and got Watkins in
Mm.
in the forward. I might get Jackson as well. I like really Jackson, in place of Watkins, and I like again Chelsea's fixture versus Liverpool. I think
Mhm.
that's a very good attacking fixture for Chelsea, and from game week 3 also, right? And since Nku is not here, I think he should
Yep.
be nailed. So Watkins, Stones, Onana. I think those are the three positions I'm actually, yeah, these three position I'm still debating. Otherwise, I'm pretty locked. So yeah, eight position out of 11. So
Yeah, makes sense.
any yeah.
Yeah, just one question. Have you considered Diaz at all over Stones, or just not in your thoughts? It's Chilwell versus Stones.
You mean Ruben Diaz?
Yeah,
No, it's either
This is
Stone.
6 million, right?
no, 5.5,
They, I
7.
think they are the same, 5.5.
Same.
I didn't think about it. I mean, but again, I felt that Stones should have a higher upside than Diaz.
Yeah, maybe
I mean,
slightly, but I think
slightly. That's true.
Yeah,
Diaz is more
Diaz's
nailed.
X,
Yeah,
yeah, X minutes is far better than Stones in general, I think.
that's true. That's true.
Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
something to consider at least. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. But I think, yeah, I mean, Chilwell is gonna be probably, coming to
Hmm.
my team. Especially, I don't want to book the transfer here because I don't have anything in my bank, right? So I cannot upgrade to Chilwell. Even if I remove Onana, right?
Hmm.
Um, I cannot upgrade to Chilwell. Well, I can get 1 million from Watkins to Jackson, but again, two transfers, right, in game week 3, which um,
Yeah.
I don't like. So I'll probably get
Is
one of the Chelsea boys now, and then later probably another one. So.
is your at least like first hand plan to keep is to uh, even beyond game week 3?
I actually like him as a pick, and I think even if Brighton concedes, I think he always has attacking potential. So I like him.
Hmm.
I want to keep him. At least
Hmm.
that's my plan right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to move him out and get Chilwell in that
Yeah.
place. At least that's my thought so far. So, but we'll see how. I mean, things are gonna change. We'll need Newcastle as you mentioned, right? So in that case, yeah, we might have to do a lot of reshuffle here. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that's my team. So.
All right. Thank you,
Yeah.
Wrangler. And then last but not least, ZD's draft. A lot of people are here to copy ZD's team already. So yeah, ZD,
Yeah.
take us through your teams.
But so I was set on the left one like almost full time, but right now after doing like because of Pedro and feel like I might captain Salah actually game week second. That's why I picked Salah. I mean that's the whole reason. As Newcastle home, I know Haaland still can score, but I might give Salah captaincy, and that's why I have that draft, and most likely I'm leaning towards that. So all the players are same, just three positions are different: Bruno Fernandes, Maddison, and Watkins, Salah, Garnacho, and Joao Pedro.
Mhm.
So right now, like on the left draft, so that's kind of template.
Mhm.
Just Madison is in there. I think most of the people has like Mitoma. I like kind of Madison, and that has like no money in the bank, and I was almost set on it because I like the five midfielders. I like Watkins in the long run, but the thing is again probably I mean obviously the options will emerge like from Chelsea, from other team, then probably I would take some adjustment, but for now this team probably I feel like this is like more like perfect team, but again like as I said, I gave it thought. I know things might change, but I feel like I want to give captain C like Salah in the second game week. So that's why I think I will go with that draft. And as like as mini Bruno Fernandes coverage, I would tr- try to keep Garnacho. And
Mhm.
for me, I know the question is coming: are you going to go odds from Salah? Yes, I'm going to go odds from Salah. Probably in game week 3. Uh, it all depends, obviously. I mean,
Yep.
this is current my thought, but my thought is like I might, if it is necessary, I might get rid of him, and I will take Bruno Fernandes in place of him,
Mhm.
and in place of Garnacho and Huapedo, whoever comes out. Like I'm booking my transfer out, but that's how I actually play most of the time. Like booking the transfer most of the cases.
Well, you have to do
So
the transfers anyways, right? So
yeah,
Yeah.
you cannot
yeah,
delay without transfers. So yeah.
yeah. I mean, feels like this one little bit adventurous, and
Mm,
but obviously I like the left one midfield package. I like that one. I like Watkins, but again, I want to take a chance on the right one probably. So I might go with that one.
So
I
60,
know
40, 50, 50, like what how much is the weightage on the right one? Because people want to
nine.
know your draft, by the way. So that's why I'm just asking.
I think for now 90 and 10
Really, you're going Salah 90,
could be
and
because I will give captaincy. That's why. That's why I'm thinking.
people
yeah, me
are gonna
too.
go
Yeah.
after you because you wrote a
No,
thread on
that is
Salah,
like,
no Salah. So
yeah. So Salah no Salah. That's like logical things.
Yeah.
Like you want him or you want him. Like if I don't know, like people will transfer out in third game week, probably most of them not. In the long term, probably
Mhm.
Salah is not good option, but in the short term,
yeah,
I feel like I want to give captaincy. I know
yeah,
many people will not
yeah. I think I'm gonna
appreciate,
overhaul my team as well. Now I'm on Salah since ZD is on Salah. So
but I mean, you need to do lots of transfer only in game week 3, game week 4. I don't
Yeah, I was very happy until ZD said 90-10 because my
yeah,
team very much looks like his left side team other than Pedro
yeah,
versus Watkins. Literally, like even the bench order are the same. And we didn't necessarily talk about this, right? We came to the same
yeah, yeah.
like conclusion from different viewpoints. But yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
was happy with that, but suddenly, like,
Mhm.
all right.
suddenly means I feel like adventurous, and basically that team I'm picking because of Garnacho. Oh, I think
Yeah,
just thought like, okay, let's have him in place of
short
Bruno
term.
Fernandes,
Yeah, yeah.
and I will go to Bruno Fernandes anyway because second fixture Tottenham, the obviously Man U might score. I mean, if you think that way, Bruno Fernandes might actually score in against Tottenham, against
Mhm.
Wolves, so he will actually he might outscore Salah as well. I'm just taking my chance with Salah, but uh,
Captaincy in the second game week.
yeah,
Okay.
captaincy in the second game week. That's why. But like, if you think as a combination, still it's Bruno Fernandes might be better because Spurs is not great in defense, and they will not be great in defense in like suddenly. So feels like
Mhm.
third game week, Nottingham Forest, and and obviously we don't know them. I mean, there could be more options emerging, right? So in
Yeah.
that case, I need to be flexible. And on the right side draft, I have 1 million in the bank. So uh, the things obviously depends on Garancho and Pedro, and
Yeah.
feels like we can take those punt over there to start with, like for a couple of games. Obviously, it is not advisable for everyone, but I just want to try
No,
that
it
one.
can be a good one, especially given that, say, for example, let's say that Haaland doesn't do that well against Burnley in the first game week. So a lot of people will be against captaining Haaland in game week 2. And it's a Newcastle, against Newcastle, one of the best defenses in the league as well, right? So you may end up getting a Haaland at like 120, 130%, you're not that high, and get all the benefit from like a 40, 50% Salah, right? When you will ever get that again, right? Like a 50%, not even 50%, I would say maybe he would be like 30, 40% you at max by game week 2. So yeah, that could be, could completely rocket you through the ranks.
But one issue is like all the time I start with this kind of thing and I go behind and then I try to come back, catch the people. So that might happen as well, But
Mhm.
because if I like the left one more, which is template, but uh, again, I'm going to start with that one. Probably I need to catch
Yeah.
regular all the time.
I mean, yeah, to be honest, I mean, if you look at the more balanced Salah drafts, it will probably have couple of 6.5 million
Yeah.
midfielders
Yep.
instead of Garnacho and Martinelli, maybe,
Yep.
right? So
Yeah. Garnacho and Martinelli
instead
probably.
of that 13 million, you'll have the 6.5 millions invested into
Mbeumo is probably.
midfielders,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so either Mitoma or Eze or Mbeumo, and they're not bad options either, right? Given fixtures, so that's something that you may want to consider as well. Of course,
I thought of
yeah.
instead of Martin, I thought of going with Nkata like first
Mhm.
2 game week and probably Mitoma is in there and then I can actually
Mhm.
upgrade Garnacho. But
Mhm.
again, I want Martinelli actually. I think
Yeah,
he has like more explosiveness. So
yeah,
I know there is some risk, but it's in probably two position, right? So
Yep.
just because Salah is not a bad option, of course. So nine
Yeah.
options is
Yeah.
good. So just two options. So
Yeah, just
just
make sure that, I mean, of course, I don't have to suggest you anything. Just make sure that you don't get forced into playing an early wild card. That's the only
no, no,
thing.
I
Because
will
when,
not play
yeah,
early wildcard. Whatever happens, probably -8, but not the early wildcard.
yeah,
And for this one, I don't need to actually. I
mhm,
just think of like if any other say Chilwell injured or like say Rashford injured,
mhm,
then
mhm,
could be an issue.
mhm,
But uh, otherwise, I mean, I'm just
yeah,
hoping like Garnacho and Joao Pedro, and probably I need to take out one large elephant
yeah,
takedown. So
yeah,
and hoping at least this team can go second game week, and then in the
yeah,
third
yeah.
game week I can use that two free transfer and make some
Mhm.
changes
Yeah,
if
I
needed.
mean, if Salah scores a hat trick against Bournemouth, you don't mind taking a -8 anyway. So, yeah, so that's
Yeah,
all right. But
or
yeah,
Salah.
I like it. I
It
like that
it could be
process.
9-0 and Salah is not scoring, but hopefully that will not happen again.
Yeah, yeah.
And as Wrangler said, hopefully people don't mind because I said I don't have Salah because it's 20 days ago. Now it's like things
Yeah,
like there is an opportunity when I think that because we don't have Jesus, we don't have Nkunku. When I think
right.
about it, probably I can take a chance a little bit. And I was on Haaland captaincy, but when I gave more thought, I think like Salah, this is a good option, good
Mhm,
time
mhm.
to go against Haaland. Probably a little bit, you need
Yep.
to take a chance. Probably you will not get that chance later in the season.
True,
I
true,
need
true.
to work on my new draft. That's kind of giving me a headache from tonight. So
No, you just
no.
no. I mean, this is risky draft, of course. So
Okay. Yeah. I
yep.
All
think
right.
good one.
Yeah, I think
Good
we're
luck, guys. Yeah.
done. If anyone has any questions, please shoot them to us. Thanks, Wrangler, and thanks, Zidi, for being here with us. Good luck for game week one. I'm pretty sure we'll talk before the deadline a lot more. Good luck to everyone else as well. Don't forget that deadline is on Friday afternoon, of course, US time. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. So we'll see you soon. Have a good rest of the day. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.